Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Anthony Jones, and I just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. As you come on, please feel free to drop a comment. Let us know where you're from. Would love to see that. So, of course, the topic for today is building your personal brand on LinkedIn. And this is something that I help people do as part of my business. It's something that I post a lot about. But today, we are going to hear from someone who has truly built a very powerful personal brand. It's a great success story. And I hope that by the time you leave here today, you leave here inspired, ready to take action, but also leave here with some very clear tactical steps on how you can get started. And with that, I'd like to welcome Kailey 𝘁𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗶𝗲𝗀𝗶 to the show. Kailey, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, your organization, and we'll get it kicked off.
Thank you, Anthony, for having me. This is the very first time I've done a live, and I am very excited to be with everyone who decided to join us this AM. So yeah, my name is Kailey 𝘁𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗶𝗲𝗀𝗶. I'm the Director of Development and Marketing at Gun Owners of America. I have been in my role since 2019 with the organization, and it's been a blessing to be able to grow on LinkedIn. I know that those who signed up for this saw that I've actually only been actively participating in the LinkedIn community for just under 2 years. So it's amazing how fast that you can grow on this network.
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction there, Kailey. So to give everybody a little bit of context, in September of 21, Kailey attended a session that I gave at the Next After NEO Summit. It's a nonprofit conference that was held in Austin, Texas. And at that conference, I gave a presentation on how to use LinkedIn to build your personal brand. And I didn't know it at the time, but Kailey was in the crowd, and she then took what she learned and she applied that. And what she's accomplished in that time has been really remarkable, including growing her fan base or her followers to over 75,000 followers in less than 2 years. So Kailey, my first question is, what was your experience on LinkedIn prior to that conference? And what were some of your biggest takeaways from that presentation?
Yeah, so I had less than 500 connections at the moment that I was looking at my LinkedIn sitting at the NIO Summit. I did not even have a banner photo on my profile. I had no endorsements. I was unaware of what the creator tools were. Nothing, a complete novice. And so the first thing I did was what you recommended, which was build out your profile. So literally we were sitting there, and a colleague of mine was with me, and I was uploading a banner photo and making my LinkedIn kind of in good standing, if you will. And it started there for me. And so I was about as novice as you could get. But yeah, your presentation was really kind of eye-opening because, in our realm as nonprofit workers, or maybe just in as citizens of Earth, LinkedIn doesn't seem to be, like the most enticing social network. Everyone kind of focuses on, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, even sometimes, Snapchat. And so you're constantly pumping out content or trying to, whether it be personal or professional, and you kind of forget that it doesn't matter where your following lies. It matters the quality of that following. And LinkedIn is kind of an open door for anyone who's really willing to put in some effort, both on an organizational level, but also on a personal brand level as well.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that keeps people, I think, from being active on LinkedIn, and there's quite a few, but one is that so many people still have the perception that LinkedIn is the job posting board that it was, 10 or 15 years ago. And, one of the things that I talked about in that presentation and that I preach now is like, it is a true social network. And when you kind of just shift your mindset from thinking of it as this is a place to go, find talent or get a job, to saying, this is the world's largest online professional networking event. It's running 24/7. And if you're not participating, if you're not showing up, like you're invisible, even if you have a profile. So it's really kind of approaching it with that. That's really important. So Kailey, tell me a little bit after the conference. You left. I know you said one of the first things that you did was you started to set up your profile, but obviously you've gone much further than that. So walk me through the next couple of steps. Over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. What did you do? How did that kind of unfold?
Well, I think the first thing that anybody who wants to have success on any platform needs to do is ask themselves some serious questions. First and foremost, what's your goal out of this? Is it to be a recruitment tool? Is it to talk about what you're working on as a nonprofit or a company that you're starting? Is it to be a leader in your space? Or is it just because you want to be able to share your story? And for me, I'm very passionate about what I do. You don't get into nonprofit work to be a millionaire. You get into nonprofit work because you're passionate about what you're working on. And I firmly believe that once you sit down and say, okay, so what's my story? How did I get here? And then really from there, kind of mold that story into an online presence and make it digestible for people is where you find success. In 2023, with AI abundant and all of these tools at our fingertips, people are starved for transparency. We're starved for transparency in government. We're starved for transparency in our nonprofits, in our corporate world, even sometimes in our home life. And you as an individual are a spokesperson for your nonprofit or your company, whether you want to believe it or not, whether you're being paid to be a spokesperson or not. You simply existing in whatever role and capacity you're in at that moment, you are a spokesperson. And so it's very important that you get real with yourself about, why am I here? Am I just here to collect a paycheck? And if I'm not just here to collect a paycheck, how do I get more people to get involved? And it's that transparency that I think LinkedIn marketing leans into more than any other platform.
Yep. I love that. And, like everyone has a personal brand, right? Like whether you realize it or not, if you're online in any capacity, you already have a digital footprint, whether that's on LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. And, in today's world, you can have two choices. You can choose to take control of your brand, to tell that narrative, to show your skills, your experiences, your personality, or you can have that brand be defined by others. And so it's a very an intentional and strategic decision that you have to make. But again, whether you're doing it on LinkedIn or some other platform, it's important to build your brand in today's world for so many reasons. Because it can open doors for you both personally, but then also, Kailey, to your point, for the organizations that you work for. And so kind of on that note, tell us a little bit about, yes, you've grown your following to 75,000 people, which is remarkable. But talk to us a little bit about the impact that your personal brand and that your presence on LinkedIn has had for your nonprofit.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the best things on LinkedIn that has allowed us to do is just show people how easy it is to take action. So at Gun Owners of America, we have a definition of what a gun rights activist is. And if you have snooped on my page any at all, you'll see it's posted multiple times. And it's really simple. It's someone who takes personal responsibility, not only in the use of their firearms, but in the defense of their right to own them. And that right there is the reason that I got started working at my nonprofit. And why I went into the career path that I wanted, that I chose. And it's that personal responsibility that I'm able to connect with people. And I can show them how easy it is to call your representative, state or federal. And I'm able to walk them through and share links and videos about what's going on that affects them directly. I'm kind of in an easier position because you all have a Second Amendment right, whether you choose to exercise it or not. So it's something that innately belongs to you. And so a lot of people naturally find interest in what I have to say. but the principle remains the same. If your goal in LinkedIn is to be an influencer and an influencer only, it's going to take a lot more. People are looking for real connections. And when you are able to provide them resources on how to get involved, when you're adding value to what they're already interested in, that's where you receive results. That's what's going to help your nonprofit do more. And it's what's going to let you as an individual shape the conversation for whatever it is that you are personally advocating for.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as like, the some of the results that you've had specifically for your organization, like increased brand awareness. I know you said that there's been an increase, or you had an increased membership and fundraising. Has that come from some of your like specific posts? Is that just sort of overall? And sort of what is the perception of your leadership and others internally in terms of what you're doing? And has that inspired others within the organization to do the same?
Yeah, well, that's a multi-part question. So
It's a lot.
I'll try to break it down piece by piece. I would say it is a rarity for me not to be engaging with somebody via private message on how to join, or how to take action, or how to donate, or how they can even get more involved as a volunteer. And so absolutely, I can say it has helped with fundraising. There's something that's kind of taboo in nonprofit fundraising that says people give to people, they don't give to organizations. And I think that's really true on LinkedIn. People want to know that you're for real. It goes all back to that transparency and authenticity that we were talking about earlier. And yes, it's turned into a kind of a full-time job, monitoring and making sure that I'm responding to people. But I will say it's probably one of the most rewarding pieces of my job as well. It's very difficult for anyone to connect with people on an individual level nowadays. I mean, we went through an entire pandemic where we couldn't be in the same room with people, let alone have meaningful conversations. And so if you allow your direct messages to kind of be that catalyst, you'll find that there are a ton of people that are passionate about the same things as you. And it definitely doesn't allow your profile to become an echo chamber as well. There's an amazing amount of diversity in the people that have come to be connections with me. And I'm very thankful for every follower. I think Anthony used the term fan club earlier, and I don't know if anyone would call themselves fans of me, but I do believe that LinkedIn has allowed for some pretty genuine connections with our donors and with people who are passionate about our movement.
Absolutely. So one of the things that you touched on earlier was, talking about giving value through your content. And like, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about getting started on LinkedIn, if there's one of the big takeaways that you should take from this, it's that point right there, right? Lead your content strategy with value. Find ways to serve your network. Find ways to solve, if you're a business owner, for example, solve the pain points of your customers or potential customers. Because there are so many people who simply use LinkedIn, even in 2023, to just pitch slap, right? They connect and they start pitching in the DMs, or they've got some automated tool that's doing that. But the people who are showing up on a regular basis, they're adding real value. They're trying to solve problems. And kind of to your point, Kailey, people are craving authenticity, like building real relationships. That's one of the most powerful things that's come out of LinkedIn for me. And I've seen that for so many other people. So Kailey, on the note of content, talk to me a little bit about your strategy. Okay. So leading with value, talk to me about how you build out your content, how you balance the posts that you have that are more personal, show your personality, versus posts that are related more toward your nonprofit and your mission.
Yeah. So I do a lot of sharing from our nonprofits page. Mainly because they're providing the educational links that I'm talking about. So don't be fearful of, if I'm sharing content, that all of a sudden I'm not going to get results. I would say probably 60 to 70% of my content is shared from other sources, and it's my comments on them. The other thing that is important is, I think, being authentic to yourself. So there is, the authenticity of your brand. But if you're only speaking in the taglines of your brand, that's not going to translate. I'm very vocal about the fact that I am a born and raised Tennessean. And although I had a brief moment where I lived in Northern Virginia, I've been here my entire life, and it's very much a part of who I am. And so, especially when there's issues going on in my state, I'm very vocal about those, because it's important that that part of my story register so that people see where I'm coming from. The other parts of me that I don't hide, I'm married. I have twin boys. They're the strongest people on planet Earth, I'm convinced. And, that's part of me. And if I'm not willing to share those aspects of my life, and I want to keep this strictly professional, it's going to read cold. And, Anthony, you brought up something super important. Many people will put AI, or they'll pay for premium, or they'll do these things to quote unquote simplify their lives. And I would rather designate 20 minutes a day to be fully present and fully authentic to a platform than pay hundreds of dollars to try to manufacture the same effect. It's going to have better long-term rewards for you and better long-term rewards for those that you're serving. And I think service is a key component there, because again, if you're just on LinkedIn to build a fan base and not serve the people that you're wanting to connect with and that you want to follow, that want to follow you, there's always going to be like this quid pro quo thing where you're not going to want to give or anything until they give you something in return. And that's not how this necessarily works. You really have to cultivate your relationships and be willing to put in the hard work to make those relationships.
Yep. I couldn't have said that better myself. That's a really another, golden nugget here. If you're looking for big takeaways, like, don't be afraid to show your personality on LinkedIn. It's one of the best ways to stand out, just as Kailey mentioned, from everyone else who is putting out just the professional content, or, just the really, boring stuff that a lot of people don't care about. Showing your personality, showing people who you are as a human. I say this every time I go on a live stream. People connect with people. In the business world, people buy from people that they know, like, trust, and remember. And for me, a large part of building my brand over the years has been, just showing people an inside look at who I am as an individual. That was really kind of how I started out on LinkedIn to begin with. And then as you build up a following, figure out what type of content resonates best with them. Again, adding value at every turn is important, but you can't overlook the importance of showing your personality. And so many people are hesitant to do that, but it is really important. Kailey, another question for you. Did you have any time over the last year and a half where you struggled? Did you hit any roadblocks, any resistance, or any challenges that you faced along the way?
Yeah, so there was a brief moment where posting on LinkedIn was just about all I could manage. So my kids were born with congenital heart defects. And so part of that means that we basically live in and out of the hospital for a short amount of time. And so in that time, I actually ended up sharing on my profile a little bit about CHD awareness. And that was pretty much all of the content I had from that season. It was a little bit, I guess, off brand, but it was very authentic to where I was at the time. And it was very sparse. I think I probably posted 2, maybe 3 times over a month during that initial kind of shock. So don't feel like you have to be all or nothing. We're all human. And that's part of that transparency and that authenticity. Humans have bad days. You're not always going to be 100%, 100% of the time. And so it's very important that you're real with people. And then if you have something going on where you need a little bit of space, communicate those boundaries. But I will say this, my LinkedIn supporters have regularly asked me how my kiddos are doing. And, 3 open heart surgeries later, they're still the strongest people I know. And it's been a great source of pride for me that shows the humanity in people. And when you get to experience that firsthand, it's pretty incredible. So don't be afraid to share the good, bad, and the ugly sometimes.
Absolutely. Love that. And yeah, and David, it says be authentic. Yes, be relatable, be authentic. And the other piece of being successful on LinkedIn is being consistent, right? So I've seen so many people who, they'll go to a training or see something in a conference, and they'll go out and they'll try a few things. They get discouraged when they don't get a ton of engagement, or they don't make sales or whatever, and they give up. And consistency can be the hardest part of that equation. So Kailey, you've obviously done a really good job at keeping consistent on LinkedIn. Obviously, there are times where, as you said, major life events are going to make you reprioritize, and LinkedIn is not that important. But overall, how have you been consistent? How have you done that? And what tips would you give to people who may be struggling when it comes to consistency?
Yeah. So the best trick I have is almost every calendar that's out on the market that's digital will automatically schedule focus time. And I have 2 10-minute blocks in my calendar daily. One is usually around 10 a.m. and then the other one is usually around 6 p.m. And for 10 minutes, I dedicate time to the platform. It's amazing what you can accomplish in 20 focused minutes. And so using tips and tricks like that is super important. Prioritizing what you want. For me, LinkedIn is about service and serving this community. And so I know if I give 20 minutes to respond to people on Messenger or to post content, that is going to do tremendous things. And I might not be 100%, but I'm pretty good at sticking with those schedules. And so a little structure goes a long way. I'm sure there's probably better things for the algorithm. And if something's breaking news, or if I'm really like in a meeting and I'm like, wow, that's an incredible point. Like this needs to go out, I'll post it. The other thing is LinkedIn has a lot of great tools. Not every tool I use. I'm a big fan of being true to yourself. If you're not somebody who uses 5,000 emojis when you text, it's probably not the time to try it out. But that being said, the poll feature, finding out where your audience is so you can talk to them at that appropriate level is important. Turning on the creator feature seems like a no-brainer, but a lot of people forget that. Momentum builds momentum. One of my favorite books is Andy Andrews' book, The Noticer. And in it, he talks about the great law of the universe, that whatever you think upon multiplies. And I truly believe that is the case. And when you think about your LinkedIn content, think about what kind of community you want. I don't want to be a fearmonger. I don't want to be constantly in a state of celebration. I want to have a pretty robust and well thought out communication with these people. I don't want them to hate seeing my name pop up on their feed. I want them to want to engage with the content that I'm sharing, because I believe it's that important. I don't want to waste time. And I really want to make sure that we're giving that impact. And I take personal responsibility in that. But buyer beware. If you don't have a positive work culture, and if you're an employer, that will show up in your employees' posts. And if you have a phenomenal work culture, that will show up in your employees' posts. And so I know that there's a lot of people, and we've all worked for great employers and we've all worked for some not great employers. But it's important that you take stock of that, because your culture that you're creating, not only for yourself, but your entire organization will inevitably bleed out onto all of the social platforms, but especially LinkedIn, because there is that recruiting factor to this platform like none other. And so absolutely, be thinking about all of those things. But if you are someone who is over a department or over an organization, like, now is the time for you to really take stock, and be thankful if you have a phenomenal work culture, but address it if you don't, because those things matter tremendously. I'm very blessed with the place that I work, but that's just a little buyer beware for you.
There's so much great information there to really focus on. Two things I want to talk about. One point was you talked about holding yourself accountable. So putting a time block on your calendar like you do, Kailey. I think that's a great idea. That's one of the things that I advise all of my new clients, especially those who are just getting started. Like, block out 20 or 30 minutes a day, and even if you're not ready to start posting your own content, use that time to just comment on other people's posts. It's that simple, because commenting is contributing to that larger part of the conversation. It is a great way to gain visibility to your profile, because when you're leaving meaningful comments, and when I say a meaningful comment, something better than congratulations or I agree or great post, right? Like a sentence or two that really shows your perspective, your thoughts on that topic. That's a great way to drive a lot of visibility back to your profile. And it's also going to give you ideas for your own content, right? Because you're seeing what other people are talking about, what's getting a lot of engagement. And the other benefit of that so many people don't maybe realize is the fact that the LinkedIn algorithm will absolutely reward you if you are leaving comments on a regular basis. And they will actually penalize your reach on your post if you're not doing that. So it's so important. And it's a great way to get started, is just block out some time and make sure that you are engaging and leaving comments in addition to your content. The other thing that I'd like to touch on just a little bit was, this idea of employee brand ambassadors, like you have become for your organization. And you had a lot of great points there. I think one of the biggest mistakes that companies make is they don't understand that the best marketers, the best brand ambassadors they will ever have are their employees, right? They're the ones who are especially in the nonprofit world, because if you, like, as you said, Kailey, and as I've experienced in 20 years working at 𝘀𝗀𝗃 Unlimited, my time there, like, you're there, you have a passion for it. And if you are empowering your employees, if you are incentivizing them and giving them tools and guidance, saying, we want you to be active, we want you to build your personal brand, that is one of the most powerful ways that you can market your brand, your company on LinkedIn. Going back to what we said earlier, people connect with people a lot better than they connect with the company pages, right? Even the company page of a nonprofit is not going to be as impactful as the voices of the employees. So yes, if you are a marketing VP, a CEO, and you're wondering, what's one of the biggest ways I can make an impact on LinkedIn, I will tell you, and I think Kailey would agree, it's not the company page. It's in the voices of your employees. So find ways to incentivize them, train them, and give them guidance, because the return on that long term can be truly phenomenal.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that's overlooked is the publicity that you, as someone who is over a department or over an organization, have in the ways of endorsements. I think people have traditionally viewed endorsements as, oh, if I endorse them, I'm just going to be helping them land their next job. But there is something so profound when you recognize someone for their work. And that not doesn't only come from the people who, you're over, but it also comes from peer to peer, and recognizing the efforts of the entire team. And if you really appreciate someone, what they're bringing to your life, an endorsement is an incredible way to go. So I'll be expecting all of you guys to go endorse me after this talk. I'm joking. But also the camaraderie. And, I think of several people at our organization, Aiden Johnson, our Director of Federal Affairs in particular, who is so good about posting consistently on LinkedIn. But again, just as I talked about the momentum of you and your individual brand, when you have multiple coworkers coming together to experience what they're experiencing, it has a ripple effect within your organization. And I can think of probably 10 people right now that actively post on LinkedIn more in 2023 than we did as a whole in 2020. And it isn't because we don't have other things to do. It's because we're seeing the value. It's another way to connect with people outside of the office. And we truly see a benefit in being a kind of a light in a world where all of these different media inputs happen.
Absolutely. You talked about, sharing or showing the culture of the organization through the employees. I know when I was at Ducks Unlimited, one of the things that I did just with my team was, encouraging them to be active. And through our content, I always wanted to show the culture of the organization. I wanted people to see the content and want to work for the organization, but also want to work for my team based on the content that people were putting out. In terms of that content, it's not just resharing that latest job post that the company made, right? It's as we talked about earlier, it's sharing your own perspective, your own thoughts. So many people in so many different industries suffer from imposter syndrome, right? Where they feel like they don't have anything to say. They're not an expert on a particular subject matter. So why should they say anything on LinkedIn? And that's a very real challenge, but you have to get over that. You have to think about the experiences that you have had in your career, lessons that you have learned. Sharing that type of content like that will build thought leadership over time. And in many cases, getting started is really just the hardest part there.
Absolutely. And everyone has a purpose behind their job, whether you're in the nonprofit sphere or just any company in general, or even if you're a student. And I think students that are looking for internships, I know that we're in May, most of them are already filled for the summer, but if there are any younger people that are on here, I want you to understand that the time that you put into LinkedIn, it might not sound cool to your friends, but it is going to pay dividends because there is a workforce starved of people who are willing to put in effort to show us that you are wanting to work for us. I think a lot of people feel like there's apathy in recruiting right now. And if I was doing this all over again, and I was about to graduate college, or if I was in college and looking for an internship, I would probably be spending an hour of my day making meaningful connections, posting content, even if it's just uploading an essay that you got an A on that can show people, hey, I'm competent. Like, I understand what I'm talking about. Like, those things are going to pay off for you tremendously. And you're going to rise faster in your career than probably any other thing you're posting on. And so I really hope that that those people that are in that position, or maybe have kids in that position, really take that to heart. The other thing that I'm going to just quickly mention when it comes to not wanting to post something. I remember being really scared the very first thing I post. Find a confidant. Find 2 or 3 people, maybe they work with you, maybe they don't, that can be a set of eyes to look over your post and give you feedback before you post it. Find a safety net. It can be your pastor, it can be your best friend, it can be your mom, it can be your 2nd grade teacher. It does not matter. It will give you confidence to make those first few posts. And then once you start seeing that trend, you're going to be confident to post more. And so sometimes we have to kind of take it out of the online world, write it up in a text message and say, hey, what do you think about this? And you'll be amazed at how fast you're able to build confidence that way if you're struggling with that.
That's a fantastic tip. I love that. And something else that you mentioned just a moment ago, in terms of, if you're new to the workforce, getting out of college, to Kailey's point, I've looked at a lot of resumes over the years, and for every resume that I looked at that was, a potential candidate, the first thing that I did wasn't dig through and read through every word on the resume. I went to their LinkedIn profile. Like that was the first thing that I did, because I wanted to see, one, if they were active, if they were posting content. In most cases, they weren't, but there were some that were active. And as a hiring manager, if I see that someone is on LinkedIn and they're showing their thoughts and their experiences and so forth, that's going to make them kind of rise up to the top of that list of resumes and give you at least a better shot of getting an interview, getting in the door, because recruiting and hiring managers are absolutely going to LinkedIn, looking at those profiles. So that's really important. I'm glad you brought that tip up.
LinkedIn is the best cover letter you will ever write if you're looking for a job, and that is just the reality on the ground.
We need to quote that. That was beautiful. Yes, the best cover letter you will ever have. Another key. A lot of golden nuggets here. That was another big one for sure. Okay. Just to scroll through here, I'm going to look back at some of these. I have not done the best job of looking at comments. I've been trying to kind of make sure we were on track here. But any other questions before we continue? Scrolling back through here. And if you have other questions, please drop them in the comments. So Kailey, here we go. If someone is watching this right now and they are inspired, they've heard your story, they say, okay, I want to get active on LinkedIn, what should they do? Like, give them a couple of tips of how to get started. And I also want to point out the fact that, when I gave this presentation at NEO a couple of years ago, there were several thousand people in attendance, online and virtually, online and in person rather. But only a small fraction will actually take that information and do something with it, like act on it. And so, one is congratulations to you for actually acting on that, because you have seen the return on that investment many times over. But for someone who is saying, okay, I'm ready to take action, I'm excited about this, what do I do?
Yeah, so I think the very first thing you do is you go to your profile and make sure it's up to date. Does it have a picture? Is it a nice looking picture? Do you have a banner photo? Is your creator mode turned on? Well, I only have 50 connections. Doesn't matter. Go ahead and turn that on so you can see everything and just get acquainted with the platform that you're going to be posting on. The next thing I would do if I were you is I would figure out what my 30 connections mean to me. Are they people I went to high school with? Are they people I went to college with? Or are they my current coworkers? And if they're my current coworkers, or if they're a mixture of all, I'd post a poll and say, how did we meet? High school, college, post-grad, coworker, random person on internet, maybe give 5 options, and just interact and have a good time, responding. Oh yeah, I remember we were in that biology class together. Oh yeah, I did remember that we went and grabbed Starbucks or a slice of pizza on Dollar Slice night. You know what? You had a phenomenal presentation last week on how we're going to improve ROI at our company. And just respond to people, because people want to be seen. And so that would probably be my first post, just to gauge who my audience is. And then once I know who my audience is, then I need to figure out, how am I going to serve them? Because more people will follow once you figure out, kind of what you're working with. I'll give you a quick example and then we can move on. Last week, I posted a poll on my personal page that asked people what kind of gun rights activists they are. I shared our definition previously in this, so I won't make you listen to it again. But it said, one option was, I'm a gun owner, I'm not an activist. One says, I take action regularly. One said, I take action when I can. And one said, my representatives know me by name. And we had probably 40, 50 comments where we've been having conversations with people about where they are in their activism journey. Many people had no idea how to contact the representatives, and I was able to share resources. But I'm constantly posting polls like that, probably every 2, 3, 4 months, so that I can better shape what I'm saying to meet the needs of my audience. And so I would highly recommend using that polling feature.
Great tips. And something else to consider is don't overthink LinkedIn, like in general. Like, don't overthink your content. Don't overthink, okay, who should I connect with? Who am I allowed to connect with? Like, people so often overthink that to the point where they just paralyze themselves and that they don't take action. Be sure that you are sending out connection requests on a regular basis, right? You're going to get some inbound connection requests and followers as your content starts to take shape on the platform. But initially, you want to make sure that you're being proactive and you're getting connections. Again, whether that's people you work with, people you went to school with, just people that you see on the platform who are posting good content, like follow them, connect with them. You will learn so much. And like, one of the things that I've learned is that your news feed is only as good as the people that you follow, right? And I have learned so much from so many great creators on this platform, and it's because I connected with them or I followed them. So I think you have a limit. You can send up to 100 connection requests every week. Like, take advantage of that, and don't overthink who you're connecting with, because ultimately, as you start posting your content, the more eyeballs that you have, on your content, the more opportunities that's going to open up for you. So that's something else to consider.
Absolutely.
And in terms of content strategy, obviously that's something that I know so many people struggle with, and that could be a whole 2-hour session in itself. But if you are struggling with content, my number one tip for you is think about defining your content pillars. Okay. So a content pillar is just a topic that you know a lot about, something you have a lot of experience with. Have 3 to 4 topics, 3 to 4 pillars, with one pillar being about you, right? Going back to what we talked about earlier, showing your personality, who you are outside of the workforce and so forth. And then those other two or three pillars talking about those particular skills, the problems that you solve for your customers, thought leadership in your industry. And once a week, you have a post in each one of those pillars. So it gives you more to talk about. It gives you, again, just sort of a framework to work with as you get started. Okay, scrolling back through, are there any other questions here? We're going to be wrapping up shortly. Let's see, Kailey, I want to say a couple things. One, congratulations on what you've accomplished in such a short period of time. It's phenomenal. Keep up the great work. It's inspiring. 2, thank you for coming on today. And also tell us if people want to follow you or get involved with your organization, tell us the best way to do that.
Yeah. So the best way is, you can follow me on LinkedIn, but you can also join our organization. It's gunowners.org. It is fairly inexpensive, $25 a year. So you can barely go out to McDonald's for that now. So it's pretty easy to get involved with us. And here, I'll do a shameless plug. If you would like to join and you are on this live stream, DM me and I will give you a discount code of $5. So it's only $20 to join. I can't make it any easier than that. Shameless plug. But yeah, perfect. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on this, and I'm very thrilled for everyone that joined. You guys took more of an initiative than I did. Just 2 years ago, I went to a summit and was sitting in a lecture. And so the fact that you're seeking out this information already tells me that you guys are going to do far bigger things than I'm even capable of.
So well said. Thank you so much, Kailey. And as we wrap up, shameless plug number 2, if you are struggling with LinkedIn, if you need help with your strategy, learning how to use LinkedIn for your sales team or for your business, please feel free to reach out to me. The best way to do that, obviously, is through LinkedIn, or you can book a discovery call with me anytime at reachanthony.com. So with that,
I have one more question that just came in, and if you don't mind going back.
Yes, please.
So Emily says, what do you do if your company does not give its employees guidance or tools to engage on LinkedIn as an employee brand ambassador? So we don't actually have any tools that we give at GOA. Most of us have been working there for a while, so we kind of know, we're passionate about what we do, so we know what we're talking about. We're regularly looking at bills. I think a company, if they give those tools, it's going to be really hard to get people to follow them. And I think that's going to eat into that authenticity. What I would suggest is just doing it on your own and posting content, and set the example for your coworkers, set the example for the people in your organization. I don't think you have to have a whole conference meeting and pass out a sheet of rules or guidelines. I think it's mainly about giving your take on what your organization or your company is all about.
Yeah, it's a great question, Emily. I'm glad that you brought that up, and Kailey, I'm glad you caught that one. Something else that I would recommend is, like, look at your company's social media policy. I've looked at a lot over the years. Most of them, unfortunately, are filled with restrictions. They read like a set of warnings, like, don't post this, don't post that, stay away from these topics. If your social media policy is kind of the opposite, if it is filled with guidelines to kind of give people guide rails as to what they should be aware of, but also give them incentives, encouragement, give them suggestions and advice, like give them the tools they need to be successful on LinkedIn. And if anyone is interested, Emily, I actually have a 2-page social media policy that is meant to accomplish just that. It's something that you can take, you can plug into your organization free of charge. If that's something that you're interested in, just shoot me a DM. I'd be glad to send that over. Right. Any other questions? Not seeing any. I'm going to wrap up. Kailey, thank you again so much. Thank you all for tuning in today. Have a great afternoon.